reference parameters are a topic that is misunderstood by most developers. So here I'm declaring a couple arrays that are set to 1, 2, 3, and then I have two functions that will modify the array. One of them does not have a reference parameter and the other one does. That's the only difference between them. And in the body of these functions, I set the first item of the array to 4. And I also check if the array is null and if it has at least one item. So what is the difference between these functions? If I were to call these functions and then print the output, what would you see? When this function is run, after this function returns, would the first item in the array actually be 4? Or would it be reset back to its original value of 1? And what about in the function that does have the reference parameter? Would the output be 1, 2, 3 or 4, 2, 3? Pause the video and take a moment to decide. And once you've made your prediction, continue watching. Alright, so now that you've made your prediction, let's see if you were correct. Let's run the program and see what the output is in each case. So the results are actually the same. We got 423 and 423 whether or not we had the reference parameter or not. So that's a surprise to some people. And let's uncomment this block of code. Let's see what this is doing. So it's pretty similar to the first block. We reset the arrays to both be 1, 2, 3. But then instead of calling modify array, I call this other function assign array. And it's a duplicate assign array ref. And again, the only difference being that one has a reference parameter and the other has a value parameter. And in assign array, it assigns the parameter to a new array. So in the original one, we were only modifying one index of the array. Now we're assigning the entire array to a new object. And in both cases, we set it to a new array containing 4, 5, and 6. So pause the video again and make your prediction about what the output would be if we ran both of these functions, passing a parameter of 1, 2, 3, and then displayed the output. What would the output be in each case? For this function, would it output 1, 2, 3 or 4, 5, 6? And for this function, would it output 1, 2, 3 or 4, 5, 6? Alright, now that you've made your prediction, let's run the program and see what the output is. So again, I set it back to the original values, call the assign array function both versions, and then just write the console output. So let's run again. So now we see with the assign array function, if we don't use the reference parameter, the modification that we did to the parameter is not preserved. Once that function returns, the array is reset to its original value of 1, 2, 3. But if we use the reference parameter, then we do see the new value of 4, 5, 6. That value is preserved even after the function exits. And so that's what the ref keyword actually does, is that it only makes a difference if you're going to assign the parameter to an entirely new object. If you're just reassigning one index of the array, then it doesn't make any difference whether or not you use the ref keyword. And actually, so it doesn't make any difference to the functionality of the program, but it does make a difference to your code quality. Because if another developer needs to understand or modify this function, it's going to be confusing for them because this param is declared with a ref, but then it doesn't reassign the object anywhere. So if you're using ref in this scenario, all you're doing is reducing your code quality. And the same goes for a list. If this had been a list instead of an array and you're only modifying one item in the list, the same concept applies, that ref wouldn't make any difference to the functionality, but it would reduce code quality. Also, if you, let's say you have an object called, like a class called person with properties first and last name, and you have one of these person objects and you want to modify a property like first or last name, the same concept applies, that you can modify the properties even without the ref keyword, and the results will still be preserved even after the function returns. But if you want to modify, if you want to reassign the entire object, then you do need the ref keyword if you want those values to be preserved after the function returns. And by the way, the only difference between ref and out is that if I had declared this with an out keyword, then it would be a compile error if I didn't reassign the array. So that's useful in cases where maybe you have some if-else logic, but it needs to assign a new value in both cases. Then out can be useful in that scenario. That's it for today. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. See you later.